يا الكبير ويا الحبيبي ويا العظيم، طشت كبدك خلى ابن امك وحيد، طشت كبدك خلى ابن امك وحيد، ياللي موتك اشد من نعل الحديد، ياللي موتك اشد من نعل الحديد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين، سيما الحجة بقية الله الأعظم، روحي وأرواحنا له فداء، ولعن دائم على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Thank you. Jazakallah khairan. So some discussions are educational. So sometimes when you bring up discussions from the member, they're educational. You teach people something which they don't know of. Sometimes no. The discussion works as a reminder. It's only there to remind you of what you know of from before. It's not a knowledge that is being added to the knowledge that you had before. No, it's just a reminder. Just like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions different things in the Holy Quran, a lot of it, we know it. But human beings, they need reminders in their life, sometimes to revive the knowledge that we have from the beginning. So that's two types of discussions. But then there's a third type of discussion, which is a very important type of discussion as well, and which is related to tonight's topic. That's a reminder which wants to remind us about some sort of a collective unawareness about a certain topic. That you see, unfortunately, that sometimes we see that a whole society, a whole community, they're unaware about certain topics or certain discussions, and therefore because of that you see certain consequences in that society which people are not aware of, and then their faith, their actions and their strivings and all their efforts is not seen, like the effects of their efforts is not seen in that community either. Like sometimes you have a person, he has faith, he has a religion, and he do good deeds, he prays his prayers and everything, but the wanted results or the effects of his actions, you don't see them. You don't see them. The same applies to a collective as well. Sometimes you see, alhamdulillah, we have a great group of mu'mineen, of believers, group of mu'mineen and believers in our society, in our community. They all have faith, they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they have knowledge as well to a certain extent, and they practice Islam. So why is it that Islam is not spreading? We don't see the benefits and the effects of this faith, of this knowledge. You know why? Because sometimes there's certain misconceptions that we hold that works as a barrier for us to reach the effect or see the effects and the fruits of these actions and the faith and the knowledge that we have as human beings. One of those barriers, dear brothers and sisters, that's our understanding of the concepts that's called suffering and hardships and pleasures in life. These two concepts, unfortunately, there's so many misconceptions, misunderstandings when it comes to these concepts, pleasures and suffering, hardships in life, that sometimes we can't benefit from our faith. We can't benefit from even following the rulings of Islam. We can't benefit from the knowledge that we have because we don't know or we don't have the ability to administrate our pleasures and our sufferings and hardships in life. So we don't benefit from none of these things. Not as an individual, but certainly not as a collective. So allow me to mention a couple of things before we discuss the history of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Because if you understand the concept of sufferings and pleasures, you will understand the history of Imam Hassan alayhi salam and why there were certain people in the time of Imam Hassan alayhi salam that went astray. They start criticizing Imam Hassan, or they forced him forced Imam Hassan alayhi salam into a peace treaty that had some unwanted consequences in Islamic history and for the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, when He talks about sufferings, what is the first thing He mentions in the Holy Quran? وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. We have created human beings in distress. In other words, you should understand, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He put you into some hardships in life, it's carefully planned that these hardships should be a part of your life. It's not by coincidence. So every time you see a movie or you listen to a song, which is halal even, or you see something, maybe it will be a series, documentary, movie, whatever it might be, or even certain captions on social media of people trying to portray life as being without hardships and without sufferings, you should turn away from that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first thing He does when He talks to human beings, speaks to human beings in the Holy Quran, He says, I created you in distress and hardships. In other words, hardships will be an essential part of your life. You can't escape it. Don't try to run away from the sufferings and the hardship. You should try to embrace the hardships and not run away from it. But we as human beings, we like to be deceived, right? We like to be deceived. So we follow people on social media and then we get the perception that a life without problems and issues and sufferings and hardships is possible. Therefore, there's something wrong with my life. We make this false comparison. Where we compare our lives with something which doesn't exist. And then we think it's my life that's something wrong with. The same applies to marriages as well. Sometimes a lot of marriages, they go wrong. Why? And they break up as well. They end up in a divorce. Because of what? They compare their own marriage to a fake standard that doesn't exist. What is that fake standard? All the beautiful pictures that people put up. They're eating dinner with their husband. They don't put pictures of their problems with their husband, right? It's when they eat nice food, they put it up on social media. So you have youth that compare themselves to this fake standard and think there's something wrong with my marriage. How come I don't have this life, right? But you don't see the sufferings, you don't see the hardships. Why people, they hide them away. So we have this perception that no, a life without hardships and sufferings is possible. So we don't even see a need for us to administrate or to start dealing with these hardships, learn how to embrace the hardships in life. We don't even take that step because we still stuck with the mindset that is calling what? That there's a life without hardships that is attainable, like you can attain it. It's not something which is far away. No, you can attain it. Social media, yeah, look, these people, they're having a life without sufferings and hardships. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives you a reality check in the Holy Quran. He does the exact opposite. He says, in fact, I created you in distress. From the moment you were brought into this life, what is one of the signs of life for an infant? That it cries, right? Suffering. From the moment you were brought into this world, the first thing that you were experiencing was sufferings and hardships. From the first moment. But now you're grown up, you're not an infant anymore. Therefore, you shouldn't cry when you're facing hardships like that infant. You should try to embrace the hardships. How do you do that? We're going to explain that. But at least understand that hardships is an essential part of life. Allah, He created it. This life with hardships. Shaykhna, but why? Wasn't it possible to create it without hardships? No. You were created with the purpose of reaching perfection or seeking perfection. How are you going to do that? Think it's going to be a roller coaster, like just down the hill? No, of course not. You will face hardships, you will suffer. Because if you want to reach perfection or seek closeness to Allah, you got to work hard. By working hard comes sufferings and hardships as well. But that's different from the hardships that we face because of our own what? Our own actions, self-inflicted hardships. Yes, I'm not saying that we should embrace all types of hardships in life. There are certain types of hardships, you just stay away from it. What is that? Hardships created by our own sins, for example, the mistakes that we committed ourselves. I'm jealous of a certain person, therefore I'm suffering because of my own jealousy. That's not a suffering that you should be embracing. Get rid of the jealousy. That's not a hardship which is going to help you or being a stepping stone for you to develop or seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, it's going to be the opposite. That suffering is going to take you to hell and make you suffer even more. But don't know, then you have some hardships and types of suffering that are positive. My wife is nagging a lot. I need to have patience. Yes, that's a suffering. Yes, but at the same time, it gives you what? It makes you come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves the people that are patient. Just an example. You can give a lot of examples. Husbands, sometimes they're nagging as well, unfortunately. Shouldn't be laughing just because I gave the example of a wife. But that's the reality. There's certain types of hardship, you need to embrace them. You need to deal with them in a rational manner. If we don't learn to do that and administrate our hardships and the sufferings that we face in life, then unfortunately we will be like these individuals that went to one of the two extremes that we're going to mention in the time of Imam Hassans alayhi salam. We have to be careful about that. So what is the first extreme that they went to? I'm going to explain that inshallah. But the suffering, back to the suffering. A group of people that came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he looked at his companions. Please recite the salawat. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he looked at his companions and he said, why are you asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something which is impossible? Say, Ya Rasulullah, we didn't ask for something which is impossible. Say, yes, you did. It's like, what are you talking about? He said, didn't you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for comfort? He said, yes. He said, comfort doesn't exist in this world. Comfort is for the hereafter. One of the companions of Imam Sadiq came to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He asked him, he said, I'm facing problems all the time. As soon as I solve one of the issues in life and one of the hardships, I overcome it, it is as if another problem starts. It's never ending. All the time, suffering, problems, hardships. When does it end? He asked it, Imam Sadiq. He said, the first day you step into paradise, that's what it's in. It's not in this world. Don't expect it to end in this world. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is it that He says? Ya ayyuhal insan innaka kadihun ila rabbika kathan famulaqi. You're laboring towards your Lord and striving famulaqi. And then you're gonna meet your Lord afterwards. But you're being pulled towards your Lord. And you're gonna strive when you do that. It's gonna be hardships on the way as well. This is a promise. Sometimes, understanding the concept of hardships and suffering comes before understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Holy Quran, He says what? Ya ayyuhal insan. He speaks to human beings. And a human being, if they know themselves, they know their Lord as well. One of the ways to become familiar with their Creator is through themselves as well. Man arafa nafsa faqad arafa rabba. The one who knows himself and the reality of himself would know his Lord as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to human beings and their self. Like, this is what you are as a human being. Striving, hardships, sufferings, you're going to face that, whether you like it or not. So if you understand this point, then it's easier for you to understand your relation to your Creator, how to deal with these hardships, and understand that these hardships, a lot of them, they should be embraced when you're seeking closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the discussion about hardships. What about the discussions about pleasures? Because that's the other side of the coin. That's the other side of the coin. So you have sufferings and hardships, but you have pleasures as well. Is it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is against that people, human beings, they enjoy life? No, unfortunately a lot of us, we have this understanding that a lot of the things that are prohibited in Islam or unlawful for us is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala don't want us to enjoy certain aspects of life. In fact, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. When He tells you to embrace hardships, that's because there's a pleasure that lies within embracing those hardships, which is greater than what? Turning your back and running away from those hardships. Let me give you an example that you all can relate to. Imagine a person who works out throughout his youth. He takes care of his own health. When he does that, when he grows older, he will be a healthier person than a person who didn't do it, who didn't eat healthy, who didn't train or work out, he didn't take care of his health. So this person, he embraced hardships when he's supposed to, so he's not going to face those hardships that comes with not doing it. And contrary to what? The person who didn't do these things, so now he grows old, now he has back pain, now he has all sorts of diseases, tens of diseases because of what? He didn't embrace hardships when he was supposed to do so. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to embrace hardships, it's because of the pleasure that lies within it. Just like this person who works out and who can benefit from the pleasure of having a good health, or being healthy, or in the state of having a good health. And that's with everything. Some people, they think Allah, when He says that something is haram, it's because He wants to take away your pleasure from us. No, it's the opposite. In fact, He wants you to experience and obtain a pleasure that is even greater than the pleasure that lies within that sin that you're committing. An action within Islam that is considered to be a sin, you know what an action it is? That's an action that sacrifices very deep and spiritual pleasures in life for some superficial pleasures. That's it. That's a sin basically in Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you to stay away from that so you can experience pleasures that are even greater in both in terms of quantity and quality. In other words, they will be long lasting, and not only that, the quality of it will be different as well. You can eat the best food as you want, but as soon as you're full, even if they offer you a bit more, you're gonna puke. You're gonna hate that food. That's a superficial pleasure. But compare that to the pleasure that lies within mourning for Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, or the walk of Arba'een that people embrace by walking 80 kilometers in the desert, all the pain and the suffering, but the pleasure that lies within it, you can't even compare the two. Every year we cry, we mourn for Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, but the pleasure that lies within it doesn't cease to exist. It's not like eating food, for example. As long as you're stuffed, then you're done then. You can't eat anymore. No, you can't get enough of it. That's the difference. There's a huge difference between spiritual pleasures and worldly pleasures. And even when it comes to worldly pleasures, a companion of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he came to Imam Sadiq, he said, when I drink water, I can't help myself. I enjoy it so much. He said, that's okay, that's fine, it's not an issue. He said, just remember to say Bismillah before drinking, so there's a difference between you and a sheep. That's it. Just remember Allah before drinking, that's it. But you can enjoy the pleasures of this worldly life. In fact, all these pleasures in this worldly life is for you. Just do it with the right intention. Islam is not against pleasures in life. And if there's something which is unlawful, which is considered to be haram, it's because that action sacrifices spiritual or deeper pleasures in life, which we can't experience if we commit those sins. In another narration from the Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Quddu absarakum tarawna al-ajaib." What is it that he tells us? He said, lower your gaze and you will see miracles. Tarawna al-ajaib. You will see miracles. Just lower your gaze. And people that have done that, that experienced that, they understand it as well. They understand it as well. Shaykhna, can you give an example? No, go experience it yourself. Practice it. Go practice it and you'll see the benefits of it. Why is it that a person like Shaykh Bahjah rahmatullah alayh, he can shed so many tears, for example, for Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, or in his prayer? Why? Because he understands, or he sees himself as being more in debt to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than anybody else. Because the pleasures that this man is experiencing through his prayers is nothing, it's like you can't even compare it to the pleasures that these people that are seeking pleasures in this worldly life they are experiencing. We can't compare the two. Hence he has no issue as soon as he's standing in prayer to shed tears for his love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He sees himself in debt because of all the pleasures he's been blessed with. قُدُّوا أَبْصَارَكُمْ تَرَوْنَ الْأَجَائِبِ. You will see miracles. This is the result of it. He doesn't need entertainment for billions of dollars to satisfy his needs. No. Him and himself on his prayer mat and his Lord speaking to his Creator, that in itself produces more pleasure than people that spends billion of dollars on entertainment and I don't know worldly affairs. Why are you looking for the difficult ways to satisfy your needs? Allah, He made it easy. We just need to understand the different concepts when it comes to hardships and pleasures in life. So how is this discussion related to the story of Imam Hassan, the history of Imam Hassan alayhi salam and his companions? Respected brothers and sisters, if we don't learn to administrate our pleasures and our sufferings in life, you know what we do? Sometimes we will commit certain actions, or we commit certain things in life based on our love for comfort. In other words, because we are trying to run away from hardships and sufferings in life, and because of our misunderstanding when it comes to pleasures, or what we find pleasure within, what we enjoy in life. Because these two things, respected brothers and sisters, they have an influence on the choices that we make in life as well. Hence, when Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam, he was forced into a peace treaty, or making a peace treaty with Muawiyah la'natullah alayhi, what happened? There was one group that told him that, what are you doing? They rebelled against him. They criticized Imam Hassan alayhi salam to an extent where one of the people that claimed to be the follower of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he turned around and he said, Assalamu alayka ya mudhill al-mu'mineen. Peace be upon you, the person who humiliated the believers. Not Amir al-Mu'mineen. Mudhill al-mu'mineen, na'udhu billah. He told that to who? The Imam of his time. Why? He thought he was more Catholic than the Pope. He didn't understand the wisdom of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. But then there was the other group as well. The other group did what? They forced Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam into a peace treaty, or making a peace treaty with Muawiyah, because of their love for comfort. And if you ask me which group or the worst group amongst the two, I would say the second. The first group, there were 4 people. One of them were even a companion. I don't want to mention his name because inshallah this historical narration or this narration is not true. But this person was promised shahada, martyrdom, by Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. It was one of the companions that we name our children after today. He was amongst the people that criticized Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. But he ended up being a martyr. The rest of the 3 people that criticized Imam Hassan alayhi salam, they ended up becoming martyrs after what happened in Karbala. They were amongst the Tawwabin, after they wanted to seek revenge from what happened to Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. They were killed in battle against the army of Bani Umayyah. So they all became martyrs. But the people that forced forced Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam into a peace treaty with Muawiyah, and you know what happened with them? They became the killers of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam because of their love for comfort. So they wanted to run away from certain sufferings in life. Because Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he told them, look, we have to wage war against Muawiyah. These people, they were not ready to take the task and embrace the hardships and accept the sufferings that comes with it. They thought that no, by accepting a peace treaty or forcing the Imam into a peace treaty, we can run away from sufferings. But do you know a suffering which is worse than being the killer of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam? He had some comfort for a couple of months in the time of Imam al-Hassan, but he ended up being the killer of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. He ended up being the killer of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. The same person or the same individuals that also forced Imam Ali alayhi salam to accept a truce with who? Muawiyah and Siffin. They ended up being the killers of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam as well. They're worse, you know why? Because they couldn't administrate and embrace the hardships in life and administrate the sufferings that we're facing in life. Therefore, they ended up committing certain actions in life where they ended up with even worse types of sufferings and worse hardships than the hardships they were facing in the beginning. That's why you see in one of the wars after the war of Badr, you all know in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the people that were in Badr, the Badriyun as they call them, they were good people. They were horse-driving people. They've taken some prisoners of war from the mushrikeen. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, none of them, we're going to free none of them. They're all going to be executed, these prisoners of war. Then the people, they turned around, they said, no, maybe their family members, their tribes, they're going to seek revenge from us, they're going to kill us. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, look, you're trying to run away from these sufferings that lies within what? These hardships that you're supposed to embrace by waging war against the mushrikeen. But let me tell you something, for each and every person that you free now, you will face martyrs we will give martyrs to the same amount. So let's say, for example, they're going to free like 70 prisoners of war. He said the same amount of martyrs we're going to give for the next war. He promised them that. If you don't accept the hardships now, you're going to face other hardships. What are those hardships? People are going to be killed from amongst our own people if you free these people. They didn't listen to the Prophet ﷺ. The exact same amount of people that they freed after Badr was the exact same amount of martyrs that were martyred in the Battle of Uhud. Look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the universe. If you don't embrace hardships, you will face even worse hardships than that. If you don't learn how to deal with sufferings, you will face even worse sufferings than that. Embrace the right hardships at the right time makes you be free from the hardships or the sufferings you're going to face further down. And that's a law, that's a universal law. That's why you see people in the time of Bani Umayyah, they were so tired of hardships and they tried to run away from hardships that they sought refuge at who? Bani al-Abbas. According to the narrations we have, Bani al-Abbas were even worse than Bani al-Umayyah when it came to what? Oppressing Ahlul Bayt and their followers. They thought to themselves, because they couldn't what? Administrate the hardships and the sufferings in life. They didn't understand these concepts. So instead of waging war against Bani Umayyah, resisting against Bani Umayyah themselves, they sought refuge at Bani al-Abbas. And Bani Abbas, they oppressed them for 500 years after that. For 500 years, non-stop, they oppressed the followers of Ahlul Bayt. People, they thought they could run away from hardships. That was their issue. So ended up forcing Imam Hassans alayhi salam into a peace treaty that had these unwanted consequences in the history of Islam. And we see the same story repeats itself in one of the stories of the Quran as well. There's one people that is mentioned, one qawm that is mentioned in the Holy Quran, which is mentioned many times. Which qawm is that? Bani Israel, right? Bani Israel. You don't have a people that have seen more miracles than the people of Bani Israel. There's no people on earth that seen more miracles from different prophets than the people of Bani Israel. But the people of Bani Israel, they ended up worshipping a golden calf within a month. Within a month. So what was the issue? According to the Holy Quran itself, it's not some understanding or interpretation of the verses of the Holy Quran. Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he tells Bani Israel, there are certain people that are oppressors in that city, we have to take over that city. In other words, we have to engage in battle with these individuals. They said, you and your Lord, they told Prophet Musa that, you and your Lord, you go and fight. We're just going to sit here. When everything is done, inshallah we come. They told their Prophet that. What happened? They were left in the desert for 40 years. That was their punishment. They were left in the desert for 40 years. This is the people that have not seen. You don't have a people or a nation that seen more miracles than the people of Bani Israel. So you've seen all of these miracles from the Prophet, from your Lord. You've seen all these signs. You have yaqeen that He exists and He helps His Prophet. Yet your love for comfort exceeded your knowledge, your intellect. Therefore, you were not ready to carry out your responsibility. Now you have to face these hardships that are even worse than that. Walk around in the desert for 40 years. Let me see what you're going to do then. Self-inflicted hardships, by not embracing the hardships we're supposed to embrace at the right time, at the right moment. This is the consequences of it. If you see people that went to extremes in the time of Imam Hassans alayhi salam, it was because they couldn't embrace different hardships in life. They weren't ready to administrate the hardship and the sufferings that were facing in life. And at the same time, they didn't understand that by embracing certain hardships in life, that itself would produce much more pleasure than the pleasures they will find by neglecting their responsibility, running away from hardships, like Bani Israel. They thought that there will be a lot of pleasure by us sitting here watching Prophet Musa fight with these people, and then we can enter the city after that. They didn't know that 40 years left in the desert were waiting for them. That was the consequence of that. Within 1 month, they ended up worshipping a golden calf. That's simple. Imagine all the miracles they've seen. Because of what? They weren't able to administrate sufferings and hardships in life. So respected brothers and sisters, if we don't want to end up in one of these extremes and walk in the footsteps of Bani Israel, not be like the people of Bani Israel, not be like the people that turned against their own Imam or forced him into a peace treaty with an oppressor, then we need to learn how to deal with hardships and pleasures in life and understand these two concepts within the Islamic context and within the Islamic paradigm. Not understanding that, look, when Allah tells you something, that's because He wants to maximize the pleasure that you experience in life. That's it. All the commands that we have is to maximize the pleasures that you experience in life. And if He tells you to stay away from something, it's because He wants to minimize self-inflicted hardships, and at the same time, you not sacrificing certain types of pleasures in life. One of the reasons why people, they don't feel present, their heart is present at the prayer, is because they're too busy with superficial pleasures in life. Of course, how are you going to experience deeper type of pleasures when you're stuck on the top, when you're stuck on the surface? A person can't dive if he's stuck on the surface then. How are you going to dive deep down, understand and experience deeper type of pleasures? You can't. That's how simple it is. So we should understand this concept almost, inshallah, so we can carry out our own responsibility and not end up like these people that went to one of the two extremes.